What is the most awkward accidental physical contact you've had with the opposite sex? Went to come from behind and wrap my arms around my wife just to feel them against her tits. Also said, "Hey sexy," when doing so. Wasn't paying attention and did it to my mom instead. I was at a cafe on a date in college that had couches and low tables with candles. The waitress brought us some pie and while serving, leaned down to place the pie down. While doing so, long, flat ties on her dress went right into a candle's flame and immediately began leaping up towards her head and longish hair. So instinctively, I just started patting out the flames right on her chest with both hands. She leaps back in shock, and I leap across the table, following her because the flames were not out. She starts screaming. I scream back, "But your dress is on fire." It took her quite a while to realize what was happening, but I really did go at her boobs in a sudden, strong, and fast flurry. I accidentally sat on a man's hand on the train once. I was a teenager and wearing a mini sundress, and I sat down right on his hand without noticing it. It sounds improbable, but the chair was bucket-shaped and his hand was in the dip. So I'm just sitting there, listening to my iPod on the train, and this guy taps me on the shoulder with his other hand and says, "I'm sorry, but this is my stop." I was so embarrassed, and that's the story of the first time I got to second base. Rubbing my leg on the table's leg during math class. Turns out it was the leg of the girl sitting next to me. Playing Marco Polo in the pool. I'm walking around the pool with my eyes closed and hands stretched out all Frankenstein-like. Hear a girl to my right. I turn. I know from her voice it's the girl with a massive rack. I've got her trapped in the corner. I know it. I reach for it. And I poked her in the eye as she tried to run away. Girl tripped on a chair and her hand landed on my dick. As a reflex, my hand swung up and hit her boob. Standing on a train in Tokyo. First off, I'm white with light brown hair that curls up in loose ringlets after a certain length. My hair was exactly at this magic length at the time, meaning I looked a bit like a bespectacled sheep. So I'm just minding my own business standing by a window reading a book when I feel something gently tugging at my scalp. Confused, I turn around. A grown-ass woman is bouncing one of my ringlets with this look on her face like she's just discovered the secret to eternal happiness. I glare, but she just looks at me, blinks, then plucks my hair again. I ask her to stop in English. She apparently can't hear me. I ask her to stop in Japanese. She goes wide-eyed in terror, like many Japanese people do when white folks know their secret language, and scuttles back into the crowded compartment to hide behind some fat guy. I looked for her a few minutes later, and she was still staring at me like I was a unicorn. Random Japanese train ladies, why you gotta be so racist? I guess this really isn't accidental, but it was awkward. And standing by that lady was certainly an accident. Very similar experience in China. I have droopy earlobes, and while on the bus, I felt an elderly lady stroking them as I sit there as a confused little child. She just smiled and continued to stroke me ears. I have magic ears, apparently. We played a game at a family party where you popped balloons on each other, and whoever pops the most the fastest wins. I put the balloon on my partner's back. I hug her so I can pop it, and it won't pop. I kept going back and forth so it would pop. Balloon ended up at her butt cause gravity. Fuck me and my competitive nature. I thrust at her 3 times hard while pulling her. It finally pops, but at this point it looked like I was trying to bang her. The families had a look of shock and I was embarrassed, but tried to act it off. An hour later I start talking to her and she gave the look. We made out throughout the night and other fun activities. I was in the school bus, then the bus stopped suddenly, which resulted in me falling and face planting my face in a girl's crotch. Sorry, I didn't eat lunch. So today, I was walking behind a girl who then decides to stop abruptly and I went, dick first into her ass, in front of all her friends. She pretended to be offended, then quickly apologized and walked away. I should also say she said she was just kidding. Sitting back to back with a friend. I'm a guy, she's a girl. I reach behind myself to try and give her a behind-the-back hug, and I just grab a bunch of boob. She's a well-endowed individual, so I grabbed a bunch. Later on, she grabbed my crotch, so I'm not sure if she was 100% against me grabbing her boobs. In the same vein of her grabbing your crotch, basically my sister and I, go ahead, make whatever incest jokes your sick little minds can think of. We're on our way back from visiting a friend who lived about an hour away. I'm 16 at the time and my sister is 26, so me being the average teenager, I say screw it and go to sleep for the drive back home. Cue pulling into our driveway. I wake up to find I have a bit of an erection. Getting up, it goes full hard on. Unfortunately, my pants were kinda tight, so if you look directly at my crotch, you notice. Thankfully, not many people stare at my crotch. We get out of the car and my sister goes to unlock the door. I go and stand next to her opening the door. I was half asleep through this, so I didn't think too much about what I was doing, which meant I also didn't pay attention to how close I was standing to my sister. Cue her losing her balance in her heels and stumbling back into me and very accidentally pressing her butt into my dick. She immediately jumps forward and steps inside. No eye contact was made, no sorry about that was exchanged. Just pure, excruciatingly awkward silence. Too long, didn't read. Fell asleep in a car, almost committed incest. Going to punch a friend jokingly, he dodges. Very ugly fat girl behind him takes the hit directly to her left tit. Awkward as fuck. Easy. My good buddy used to throw these pool parties for all of our friends back in the day. The pool was small, so when about 10, 15 people were in it, it was pretty cramped. I'm not sure why, but my buddy's girlfriend was swimming towards me while I backward doggy paddled, kind of kicking my feet while swimming backwards. Well, as it turned out, one of my kicks slid up her inner thigh, slipped past her swimsuit bottoms, and I towed her vagina. We locked eyes as if to make a mutual agreement never to mention this event to my buddy, and I immediately left the pool. They are still dating today, and it's still awkward 8 years later. Boner on a packed subway car. It was pressed right against her butt, just kept whispering, "I'm so sorry," into her ear. Was joking around with my friends, gesturing wildly, and accidentally hit a guy's ball sack. Then on top of that, as he straightens himself and I try to apologize to him, I then somehow magically proceed to smack him in the face. Yeah, so freaking awkward. Edit. Why, yes, I was sorry. Of course. I forgot to mention, after smacking him in the face, we both look at each other awkwardly for a good 3 seconds. And then sorta half giggle embarrassingly, and then we both walk off. The girl I was interested in at the time knocked on my sweet door one morning. I had just woken up and was sporting a solid half chub of morning wood. Somehow thinking my pajama pants could hide this fact, I get up and open the door, only to be greeted by a big hug from her. After a few seconds, I felt my dick rub up against her leg. She didn't say anything, but she knew she had to. She left, and I stood there mortified for a while. Didn't see much of her after that. Edit. The reason she stopped by was because she had been gone all weekend. She didn't leave as soon as my dick touched her, but didn't make a habit of staying much longer either. In 7th grade, my class was all standing in line, and another kid suddenly grabbed my hand and forced it onto a girl's chest. Technically, it wasn't an accident, but it sure was awkward. So I'm talking to my buddy in the hallway when he asks where the nearest bathroom was, so I, not looking, whipped my arm up and was going to point behind me. However, this chick was standing just to my left and got the full force of my backhand to her face. Needless to say, my pimp hand is strong. Sitting in the dentist chair as a kid and having the hot assistant rest her boob on my forehead. Awkward, but loved every minute of it. I was 18, sitting next to the pool in my backyard. Parents are gone. Boyfriend is over. We are in the middle of an intense makeout session. Somehow his erect penis had managed to circumvent both our suits and begin the lightest of penetration. At first, I thought he had done it on purpose, but the look of total shock that was on his face. He was like a cornered rabbit. He quickly pulled away and apologized profusely, and was hesitant to come within 3 feet of me for the rest of the night. Ended up marrying him, whenever let him live down that look of terror on his face. I wore a color-changing shirt based on body heat. It was dark gray to start, and heat turned it white. Every guy at work wanted to see their handprint, and proceeded to grab my shoulders and back for the effect. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was waiting in a queue at a homeware shop with my dad and sister. I think I must have been distracted by something, because for whatever reason, I didn't notice that my dad and sister left, as in, they got out of the queue to get something else and then gone to the end. I just kept moving forward with the line, thinking my dad was standing in front of me. I started leaning against him and hugging his arm and cuddling up to him, like annoying kids do. It took my brain a couple seconds to register that he didn't smell like my dad. Suddenly, I looked up to see that the guy I was weirdly hanging onto was actually a 30-something-year-old with his wife, girlfriend. He didn't say anything, just looked at me bizarrely. I immediately got the hell out of the line and found my dad and sister, who didn't even notice I hadn't been with them all along. I watched the couple walk out of the store and noted that they were laughing hysterically once outside. I was so mortified about this, I wanted to die for weeks. Hey, fantastic audience! Today I'm bidding you farewell, but it's not the end of our connection. Hop on over to the channel, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and ensure you're subscribed. Because trust me, you won't want to miss out on the exciting things coming up.